Thank you, Giuliana, for helping with my project. I was wondering if you could start off by talking a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Nathan. So I'm a lawyer, a space lawyer. So I graduated in law and then I started to do work in the space sector. And I wrote my thesis on the militarization and the weaponization of outer space. And then I started doing lots of space activities. So I did a master in space studies and now I'm working in the space sector, both on lunar governance. That's why I was super interested in your project to see what people think about what will happen in the next few years. And in an astronomical observatory, the European Southern Observatory.
So let's see, you mentioned you did a master's in space studies. Where did you do that at?
I went to Strasbourg. There is this place called the International Space University. It's amazing because it's an interdisciplinary university. So we are people from all over the world. We were 40 students from 27 different countries, or 28, I don't remember, and all from different backgrounds. So we were two lawyers, many engineers, a couple of architects, designer, a couple of people studying medicine, economics, management. And during the year, we did many different projects on all the subjects that are related to space. So we studied space applications, space engineer, human performances in space, that is like how the medicine and physiology of people works in space, space architecture, space poetry, literature, whatever could come to your mind, we were studying it. So it was amazing. And then we had also the time to do some team project, individual project, knowing like lots of people working in the space sector, also because many astronauts have been studying in that university, like Jessica Meyer that just came back from the ISS. She was a student from my master. She made us do like a virtual tour on the ISS during the year. It was incredible. So no, it's really a place for space geeks, and it was super. It really prepared me for this space life.
That's awesome. So with like space law, um, how does that work? Like you're talking about dealing with the militarization of space and kind of, I mean, you know, whenever people think about law, they think about, legislatures and courts and, the contracts and litigants like in, lawsuits and things like that. But when it comes to space, it seems like a lot of that infrastructure is still very much in the process of being developed and formalized.
Well, actually, no, the space law exists since like 50 years ago. So there is a set of space treaties that have been developed by the United Nations, the UN COPUS, that is the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. And in 1967 was issued the first treaty, that is the Outer Space Treaty. So it's a kind of constitution of space. And then there were other treaties that kind of specified some of the articles of the Outer Space Treaty. So there is the Registration Convention, the Astronaut Rescue Agreement, the Liability Convention, and the Moon Treaty, that is like the loser one. No one signed it. But there is actually a real body of international law. Then, of course, the implementation is difficult and is also different because 50 years ago, the space environment was completely different. The actors were not the same of today. So today there is the involvement of all the private actors, the commercial entities that are changing a little bit the framework. So of course it must be adapted, and there are many other instruments of law, but it's not that unreal as it could seem. Like space law is actually a thing.
And it seems like, you mentioned outer space treaty. It seems like that has actually hindered our ability to get private investment into space and kind of develop the resources of space in the same way that we might develop resources in, say, under the ocean or in the ocean and what have you. Are more traditional kind of like economies where you have a set of prospectors go out and they can create a claim against a resource after they've proven that the resource is there, and then they're able to sell that claim to like a mining company, and then that mining company is able to go and get the resources and have kind of like ownership of that, and then that kind of drives the economy from there. It seems like the Outer Space Treaty almost explicitly makes that whole process not possible. I was wondering what your thought about
No.
that.
It does not make possible the appropriation of those resources, but you can utilize them. So there are some national legislation like the Luxembourg one and the US one that are authorizing private companies to mine actually celestial bodies. So it will be possible to use the resources that are on the moon to develop for future infrastructure and prepare the world for what will be after the exploration of the moon. So let's say private companies cannot appropriate these resources. They cannot say, okay, this place is mine, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to claim the jurisdiction over this place, but they can actually extract resources and utilize them. So it's like international law is very flexible, it's broad, and there are all these like very flexible terms, so you can interpret it in many different ways. And the important thing will be like to find a way to share these resources with all the other countries that are not actually ready to develop technologies to go to the moon. So that is the most tricky part, but using those resources will be possible. Appropriating them, not.
Well, and we have a North Houston Space Society chapter here, and we had a lawyer come and talk to our group who's also in space law, and he does like the mock UN challenges and things like that around the space law that they have at the International Astronautical Congress every year. And he was saying that there's also the principle of non-interference in
Mhm.
the Outer Space Treaty, that um, one country or company, well, one country can't interfere with the operations of another country. And this could maybe potentially allow for prospecting companies to go in there and have some type of operation that would essentially exclude other countries from the area in which they were operating. I was wondering if you thought that might be
Yeah,
a possibility.
yeah, that could be a problem, but there are like for governmental entities now there are many like there are the Artemis Accords that are trying to establish bilateral agreements between the US, NASA, and other space agencies. So in somehow they will manage their relation on the moon in this way. And with private companies, probably like they will just like there should be a kind of registry of activities so that. Every company will know where the others are settling and try to find another place, let's say. But like there are many issues because, for example, there are cultural heritage sites that should be preserved. I work a lot I work for All Mankind, that is a non-profit organization that is dealing with the protection of cultural heritage sites on the moon. So what could be seen as archaeological of an archaeological historical value should be protected. So we should also try not to interfere not only with commercial entities but also with the cultural value of the moon and with the environment. So it's interesting how it will be and how the law but also the cooperation between companies and within public and private entities will work in the future.
And you kind of hinted at one of the challenges for space law right now is you have these spacefaring countries today that are able to go to the moon, explore its resources, and take advantage of it. But then you have a lot of countries that can't do that and who might at some point in the future be able to. And I think you hinted on the need to somehow protect their rights. And I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
So it's very difficult at also this point because it's difficult to imagine already now what could be the profit of this mission on the moon. So we know that some private companies will go to the moon to mine resources and utilize these resources, but talking about the benefit is super difficult because you cannot even now imagine what could be the profit if there will be the profit. So like we need probably not all the countries will be able to go to the moon now, but also it's not sure that those commercial missions will actually gain some profit that then could be shared with other countries. So the important is like trying to maybe involve them with contracts for mm, I don't know, for technical aspects of the missions. That could be a way to involve also developing countries now and try to make them part of the future exploration mission too.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, um, I've heard that, I mean, like oil, for example, wasn't really a resource until we developed the way, the combustion engine and a way to like actually use it. So there could be lots of things on the moon that don't look valuable now,
Yes.
and we just discard, but then we figure out some technology where they become essential and become really valuable.
Mm-mm. Yeah, so I think we will see, because also like saying now to private companies that they should share some profit that they don't have already would for sure block any kind of activity. So I'm not for the commercialization of space, but also I believe that we need to do some steps so that we can further develop the exploration of our solar system. Otherwise, we would stay just like blocked and like limiting all our possibilities outside Earth. So of course, then we need some kind of regulation. That's why I like law, and I want to be like a space lawyer, but also we need to let some companies work there and see what the future will prospect us.
And whenever I've been doing these interviews, I was originally planning to do them with random people at coffee shops and museums on the bus and what have you. And then COVID-19 came along and
Yeah.
I had to schedule them all on Zoom. So the nature of the interviews have sort of changed over time. But with the people that I've interviewed, just randomly off the street, they've raised a number of concerns that they have with respect to us going to space. One is, um, we've messed up the Earth. Why would we mess up the moon too? Which kind of took me by surprise. And I think there's really sort of several aspects to that point of view. Um, you know, what could we possibly mess up about the moon is sort of the first thing that comes to my mind. But as I started thinking about it more and more, I mean, we're looking at trying to make use of volatiles, water ice and other things that are in these permanently shadowed crater areas. Um, it's very, in a kind of like a geological place that's poorly understood. And you could kind of imagine kind of making a dent or something in like the crater rim that causes a little bit of light to come through, which causes it to heat a little bit more, which causes, kind of like this chain of reaction that we had no idea that would happen, or that we're going to have a lot of learnings. We were going to make so many mistakes whenever we explore the moon, but that's how you learn. You can't
Yeah.
just stay wherever. But how, from a legal perspective, would you work through an issue like that?
I don't know, but like I think that what like in messing up the moon versus messing up Earth, I think there is a factor that is the cooperation in space that is completely different from what happened on Earth. So on Earth, states like don't really need to cooperate. We need to be peaceful and try to avoid wars. But like in space, there is a real need to cooperate and be careful and work together, because it depends on the survival of people that will be there. So I think there will be like a factor that will help us being more careful, work together, and be ready to understand what will come after. So understand what will be the process in making scientific discoveries on the moon, and the step by step work together. It will be like more diplomatic, I guess, and more cooperative and way more careful than on Earth. So of course, like it could be a problem messing up the moon, but as you say, like we need to go there to understand. Maybe we won't mess it up. Like we just need to go and see what what could happen, what we can do, and how to avoid creating any problem. Anyway, like there is the responsibility and legal liability also for activities in space. So somehow, if something happen, we have some rule that we can follow, even if we don't have like a space tribunal. Like there is still like some legal rules to that will help us in this case. But I think like I'm very positive for the future of lunar exploration. My only concern is like the development of military activities or the development of weapon in space. But for the rest, for the scientific exploration, I think we could make some mistakes, but they will be useful for the future development of space exploration. So even like some mistakes are also welcome if they help us to like to reach further points.
I mean, that's definitely my point of view too. But it's not shared by all. There's some people that are like, into you can make sure nobody dies, until you can make sure you don't mess anything up, until you get agreement by everybody, you shouldn't do anything. And in that framework, it's impossible to actually do anything. And I was just wondering, how do you?
Yeah, but I think, like, I mean, the agreement on exploring and using space there was already in the 67. So, of course, like at the time, the factors that brought the countries to explore space were different, but there is an agreement on the need to explore space and see what will happen. Of course, like we must be careful in the kind of activities that we will conduct there, but also for this, like there are many regulations, for example, like for the contamination, biological contamination of the territories on the moon and in the rest of the outer space. Like there are some guidelines that tell us like what we need to avoid, how we need to approach certain zones of the moon. So like there are the planetary protection guidelines that tell us, okay, this zone is more dangerous than another, or it's more easy to contaminate, or we shouldn't contaminate this zone because otherwise we won't be able to make a proper scientific research. So there are some regulation agreed upon already, and now is the time to, I mean, to go there and see what happens.
Um, but I get the feeling that like China and Russia and the U.S. really aren't collaborating and coordinating their policies with regard to space. And I mean, do you see something going on there that gives you hope that they are? Or what
No.
are your thoughts? No.
No, I don't see any. I don't see so many collaboration. I will say I don't know if honestly if Russia and the US are collaborating now for the Artemis Accord. But yeah, for China, the case is for sure completely different. China also, since I think 3 or 4 years ago, is already like looking for partnership for the exploration of the moon, but in somehow it will work. I mean, for the ISS, it worked with all the main space agencies, so they were able in the end to sign an agreement that worked and is working until now. So with China, yes, the situation is more difficult. I see more problems for when there will be like possible settlements on the moon, because at that point you will need to share resources, collaborate if something happened in a settlement of the US. And I don't know, you have a piece that you need to repair something in the settlement of China, you will need to collaborate or operate together to solve like in a cooperative way problems. So that could be a problem. For now, I think I don't see so much collaboration, but maybe with the time and future agreements, we'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned space settlement, and you also mentioned that group for all mankind that's preserving the
Moonkind, for all
for
moonkind.
all moonkind. Yes,
Yeah.
there's an Apple TV series called For All Mankind. I don't know if
Ah,
you've heard about it.
is I think I heard it, and it was like is the one about Russian getting to the moon first, right? Something like
Exactly.
that. I haven't seen it, but I know that is a good series.
And if you're not familiar with what actually happened, you could walk away with a very strange ideas on history.
Yeah.
um, because but in it, the Russians get there first, and so now it's a race for the base and developing the moon to try to do that before the Russians, and it's just kind of it, it goes a whole different direction than what really happened. But
It must be cool. I must watch it. Actually, like I love the Sovietic space program. Like they were more, for me, were more advanced than the US one in a inclusiveness and diversity sense, because like they sent the first woman to space, the first man of color to space. It was I think a Cuban one. So they were like more diverse, more inclusive. Still like 40 years ago. So I wish like I could see really in reality how it could be having like Soviets on the moon first.
now, uh, we're talking a lot about the moon. Um, SpaceX is, Elon Musk. He wants to create a million-person city on Mars by 2050. And when, if you put aside just the technical problems, what do you think would be required from like a legal and sort of international agreement standpoint to actually enable that to happen?
I think that before the legal, we need an understanding of the human body. We still don't understand like many things on the human body. So we could even have the technology to get to Mars, but like we would need, I don't know, like medicines to go there, an understanding of how the body works. It's very like when I was young, I wanted to become an astronaut, and then I started to study actually what happened to the body of a person in space, and I said, okay, I don't want to go to space anymore because like it's too complicated. And from a legal perspective, I don't know, like it's very difficult to foresee like a settlement on Mars because I guess like the first that will land there could just not claim the land, but because of course it's like it's forbidden by the Outer Space Treaty, but they would stay there and occupy the territory because are like they have to stay somewhere. So of course there would be the need of some kind of international agreement to manage how it will work life on Mars. I don't know if you have seen talking about the science fiction series The Expanse.
Yes,
That
yes.
is very cool. Like it's really on the like how it will be the world in not in 50 years for sure, but in I guess in some thousands of years, and there will be like people on Mars trying to terraform Mars, and people like on the belt, people living on the belt, people living on Earth. So it's super difficult. But I guess that once people will reach the moon, it will reach Mars. It will be very difficult to keep like to avoid that those communities will become independent because they cannot like depend forever from Earth. So probably it won't even be a question of occupying the territory or claiming jurisdiction because it will be a thing that is completely apart from our idea of sovereignty and nations.
It'd be kind of interesting to see at what point does an independent settlement on Mars become its own political entity, and then how does that get incorporated into sort of like the UN framework and
Yeah.
everything?
I think like the independence on a future celestial bodies will arrive when those settlements won't be dependent on resources of Earth. So if they will find enough resources to survive, mostly water and like the ability, they will have the ability to grow food and these kind of things. Then if they will have the economic independence and the like life independence, they will be able to become also like from a political standpoint independent. I was like thinking about this because I read a book about revolution and descent on above Earth. So it was like if a group of people wants to protest and get the independence on in space, how could they do? Because, for example, of course, you cannot destroy infrastructure on a celestial bodies, because that would cause like problems to your life. Or if you want to, like as it happened in the Expanse, if you want to protest, but then your place is depending from the water that Earth is providing you, you cannot protest because otherwise you will stay without water. So I guess like the independence will arrive once it will be guaranteed also like economical independence. And,
Indeed, yeah. I mean, as long as you're dependent upon resources, the people providing those resources have a lot of control.
yeah. So once the control on those resources, like once they will be free to have like enough resources, and I think it's mostly water, because then with water you are able to grow your food and to survive and to use it in many different ways. Then maybe those settlements will be able to be independent. And I see like I don't know, in my imagination it could be like. I don't know if you know the Republic of Rovaya. They are like a democratic confederalism, so in Syria, and like they work it is a kind of direct democracy where there is the environmental sustainability, gender equality. So I think maybe it will be the best. What we could do good here reflected there, like a real like good cooperative community, when there will be a kind of direct democracy and a better like division of the resources and and the benefit that population will have outside Earth.
And you mentioned you work with the European Southern Observatory.
Yes, I'm working now. I'm an intern, and I'm working on the impact of mega satellites constellation on astronomical observations. So there will be this mega constellation like Starlink, OneWeb. Now also Amazon have planned to deploy the other satellites for a constellation, and these constellations are aimed at providing internet connections. So they are located in the low Earth orbit, so that they could provide a good coverage while having a good contact with the ground. But of course, like the position of this constellation and the number of satellites that are being sent is like creating problems. Could create problems, not yet creating problems, but could create problems if not regulated to astronomy, but also to space safety. They could like create, like increase the creation of debris. So it's something very interesting from a legal point of view, because it's not regulated, and we can like, of course, there is the freedom of activities in outer space. So if someone wants to send a constellation, of course, it's free, is able to do it, but it's also difficult to understand like where is the balance between the freedom of scientific investigation and the freedom of use of outer space for other uses. So it's very complicated. Also because actually astronomy is not even protected under international law, because it's not considered as space activity as it happened on the ground. So it's crazy. Like at least optical astronomy happen like is happening with ground telescopes. So being this telescope located on Earth, is until now it has not been protected under international law. So I'm trying to understand what could be a way to make also the Outer Space Treaty apply to ground astronomy, and make sure that there will be a need of consultation before developing further activities with, for example, satellite with mega constellation. But I know that like commercial companies for now are really cooperative, so they're trying to find ways to prevent the creation of issues. Like SpaceX has been adding some technical aspects, not technical adjustment to their satellites to not make appear those satellites in such an evident way. But of course, like this is just the first of multiple constellations that could be deployed in the future. So it's interesting to see how the legal war war will help this with this issue.
And it's not just blocking the view of space, but you got to think about countries like China, which are so used to be able to control information flow between the outside world and their citizens. Be
Yeah.
interesting to see what their point of view is in terms of having these orbital constellations that would be so easy to allow for people to have free flow, free access to information without that control,
Yes.
which I'm actually very supportive of. So I think it's kind of good, but you could imagine them doing things like trying to jam the satellites or, um, and you could potentially imagine that jamming could cause them to be out of control, and then you have like them running into each other, and you could imagine a scenario like that unfolding. I was wondering what you thought about that.
But I think still that would be like an harmful interference with the activities of another country. So it's like probably they would not be happy about the development of this kind of infrastructure. But I mean, there is not something that states they cannot like jam satellites because they decided this there is too much internet connection. It would be against the treaty, and actually the Outer Space Treaty, in some principle, I think most like I think around 108 or 109 countries signed it already, but also it's like it's customary law, so it's recognized as a principle that is applicable to every country, most of the principle of the Outer Space Treaty. So avoiding harmful interference is one of the most important articles in the Outer Space Treaty. So there couldn't be that kind of interference. I could see more maybe some competition with different kind of constellations. I don't know actually if China has some plan of developing this kind of constellations, of mega constellations. I haven't read anything about it.
Uh, yeah, but if a country does violate these international norms and what have you, um, what's the repercussions?
So there is no implementation mechanism. So luckily for now, there have been no violation. I think there has been just one case in which one object from Russia fell on the soil of Canada. It was, I think, in the 80s or something like that. That is the only space law case that I not even went to a court because there is not a court of space law. And there was like a compensation. Russia paid some compensation to Canada for the damage, but there is not a real implementation mechanism. So, like in those kind of cases, you can have sanctions. If there is a damage, you have to restore the damage because there is the space liability for activities happening both on Earth and in space. But yes, actually, there is not a tribunal, so they probably it will work with some kind of arbitration mechanism. But for now, luckily, there has not been any case of this kind. I don't know in the future. For until now, it has worked well. So people in these kind of cases are very cooperative. But yeah, there is not any like implementation mechanism that say, or at least it was supposed to exist. I think there is an article in the Outer Space Treaty, but this mechanism has never been created. So probably because there has not been any case, so there has been no need. Who knows? Maybe in the future, if there could be some kind of new tribunal for space activities.
Now, in the US, there is the feeling that the US is increasingly not interested in supporting international organizations, that we're kind of more and more, um, just dealing with countries on a bilateral basis. And, kind of, I mean, there's a sense that we're really kind of undoing and eroding our support for things like the World Health Organization and the UN and NATO and all these other organizations. And um, that's just from my point of view here in the US. But uh, as somebody who deals with like the United Nations organization for the peaceful uses of space and things like that, I was wondering what the outside view was. Have you noticed a change between like say the US's posture in terms of international organization over the past 10, 20 years?
So I'm sure that, like with the recent administration, there have been a shift a little bit in the national international policy, but I think in the space forum is like very like there is still a kind of like international collaboration. Like the Accords are needed because, of course, there is the need to see in the practice what the organization that will go to the moon have to do. But even like listening to people from NASA, you understand that this kind of agreement also need to are kind of repeating what is written already in the Outer Space Treaty, and also are fostering the conversation on some topics like interoperability or the protection of cultural heritage sites, or like safety of astronauts, so and the creation of safety zones. So let's say the bilateralism in these cases is needed to understand. Actually, it's like a contract, like to say, okay, we will go there and we will work in this way together. So for the companies and the actors that are actually going to the moon is like is needed some kind of faster agreement, because if you work only like in international in an international dimension, it would take way too many years. So of course, I think like this bilateralism is what we need now to let them go to the moon, and then this will help the conversation on some important topic for when like there will be a more international discussion.
Now, Elon Musk visions for that million person settlement on Mars. Jeff Bezos and his company with Blue Origin has a completely different vision for space. He's like, the Earth is the best place in the solar system. There's like no place that's even close. And he's like, we should be moving all of our industry and mining and power generation and things that hurt the earth off of the earth and just rezone earth as being for life and for, you live on earth, but you work in space,
Yeah.
uh, and I was wondering if you had heard of that vision and what you think
No,
of it.
I haven't heard actually before. It's interesting, but you have also to think that we don't know what is like in space. So maybe on the moon there are no life forms, but we don't know what there could be on Mars. And I've been working during the past year on SETI, that is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And actually, I thought, okay, green man, little green man, but it's not like it's a real discipline of astrobiology, and it's interesting to see, like, to think how many life forms there could be outside our inside in our solar system, outside Earth. So, like, thinking that we should just like move all our industry to other planets would like. Not respect what there could be on another planet. So like both visions are like missing kind of compassion for what is space or what is Earth. So we shouldn't just go there to Mars because our planet is destroyed, but we shouldn't even like just send everything to the space to make our planet survive. We should do both things together. So we should like work on the survival of our planet, and also understand life and the functioning of other planets. So like even understanding how life could be in space, and if there was life on Mars, for example, on other planet, how life generates, and that could help us understand our life, how our life generates. But like saying, okay, we should send everything there, or we should go there and like abandon Earth, I think are both like wrong visions. There should be like a vision for which we say, okay, we care about our planet, but we care also about our solar system, and we need to develop like the safety of both environments together.
And SETI is an interesting concept, right? I mean, whenever you look at the solar system, or sorry, not the solar system, but the universe, and you have trillions and trillions of stars, and we pretty much think the vast majority of them have planets.
Mhm.
And just looking at the odds, there's got to be life someplace else in the universe, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you know, it's probably unlikely unless there's things about physics we don't understand, which I'm sure there's lots about physics we don't understand. Um, but it's very the most imag the most likely scenario is that we would communicate with this technology over messages that would maybe take tens or hundreds of years to travel
Mhm.
between us and them. Um, I was wondering how you thought through like how you carry on that conversation whenever by the time you get the reply back, the people that sent the message maybe aren't around anymore, and how you create organizations that could
Yes.
kind of handle that.
It's very complicated. Like I was studying also this because there are some protocols existing that are not binding, but are like the post-detection protocols. So in case a signal is received, that like, it's crazy because they should receive our signal and then we should receive our signal back in we don't know how many thousands of years. But like there should be like the scientific community should avoid the general panic. So should, I don't know, communicate first to the governmental entities, to the UN, and try to find a strategy to communicate what to communicate to the public first what has happened, and then to decide to how to reply to this kind of message. But like I was studying this, and then I realized that anyway we are not ready because like I try to do an ethical studies on this, so to see how, in general, here on Earth, we treat different kind of intelligence. So, of course, like animals or plants are not comparable to what we could find because we have no idea of how an intelligent form could look like. But still, if we think how we approach the different kind of intelligence that we have on Earth, you can clearly see that we are not ready to approach a different kind of intelligence like on in the solar system or in the universe, because we wouldn't, like, we live in our conception of the universe is completely anthropocentric, so everything is going around like humanity. Even if you think about environmental protection policies are not like aimed at protecting the environment, but are aimed at protecting humans from what could happen with the environment, like pollution and how pollution could affect the humans. But it's not like we care about Earth and we want to protect Earth itself. So it's interesting. I was like studying some communities, and I saw that there exist some regulations that gives constitutional rights to the nature or to Mother Earth, and that is like the way we should think before thinking about how to message a future like possible form of intelligence. We should think about how we approach different kind of intelligence that could be animals. Like I studied many cases in the tribunals about like how slowly some constitutional rights are being recognized to elephant, to chimpanzee, or to other kind of animals, or how we approach nature, and how we understand how much we are a part of the whole system, let's say. As Jill Tarter said, we are all stardust, so we are really just of the same material, and we just need to understand that we are part of the same ecosphere to be ready for like future messaging with an extraterrestrial form of intelligence.
Definitely, it yeah, it's kind of interesting. Also, there's a risk too. You know, we always think that uh, these other civilizations might be friendly or glad to meet us. They might be uh, they might be happy to come here, and they're we're like so low below them that it's like the ants or what have you. You
Yeah.
know,
We could be just like the small that we will be destroyed in in a second. But then at that point we won't need to care because probably they will have some kind of technology that we don't even imagine. But yes, I don't know. Like I just think that if we think about it in a, like in a positive way, in a, like in a perspective for which we respect what we will find, there could be like a positive reaction. Even if you think like at the expanse, there is the I don't remember which is the name, the protomolecule. Like the protomolecule, when it was attacked, it was attacking, but when it was like not attacked, but not show compassion, but like was reacting to the action of man, so of humans. So if you attack the protomolecule, it will reply with an attack. But if you are like kind, maybe it will let you survive.
it's like a mirror. It reflects back at you what you are.
Exactly, and SETI is exactly a mirror, like because you understand, like with the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is such a cool topic because you understand really lots of things about humans even without realizing it. It's really like a mirror. Like you make a reflection on yourselves and on the universe and on how you are part of the universe. So it's an incredible topic.
And so, when did you find out that the U.S. is planning to send people back to the surface of the moon in 2024?
I found out I don't remember. I don't remember even when it was announced, probably a couple of years ago.
I
Because
think like February of 2019.
okay, yeah. So yeah, so probably in February 2019 because I was already studying in the space sector. So I was I didn't expect like human mission so early. I don't even know if it will be possible in by 2024 to send humans to the moon again. I'm not sure the technology will be ready by then, but for sure it will be something that will happen in the next 10 years.
It's pretty amazing, Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin is leading a team called the National Team that's working on the human landing system, one of the three teams, and they just sent a full-scale engineering model to the Johnson Space Center for them to start evaluating and giving feedback on. So things
It's super cool. Yeah.
are moving. I'm
Yeah,
hopeful.
but if you think like the Apollo 11 was the Apollo 11 because all the 11 Apollo before were just studying about how to reach the moon, so like they were sending, failing, just orbiting around the moon, and then with the Apollo 11 after 10 other 10 other trials they were able to land to the moon. So it's cool that it's something is moving, but it's also like there are so many things that we need to try first, like for probably like doing an orbit around the moon first, go and come back, and then let's see how to land there. But it will be super cool.
And we need to somehow keep that as our goal until we make it happen, as opposed to coming up with something that is better to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. We really need to do it like in the best possible way now for the future. Like with Apollo, it was cool, but still it was like was not was a Apollo program was not inclusive enough, was not diverse, was not like taking care about so many social justice issues that now we need to consider. So it was a great leap for humanity, but now we need to like think about it better and take steps to make sure that it will be really like a step for the whole humanity and not just like a few white men going to the moon. So
Well, you may have heard that one of the goals is for the first landing to land the first woman on the moon. Uh,
yes,
and I was wondering, does this make you more excited, or does it affect your excitement at all?
Yeah, like it makes me excited, but also like it shouldn't be something just that you say. Namely, we are sending another woman to the moon, so every other problem is solved. Like the space sector has a number of inequalities that must be faced. So, like increasing the number of women in the space sector, or saying we are sending a woman to the moon, won't change the structural problems that exist. So there is a huge gap that cannot be filled just by increasing the number. So there are even like just in the work sector, like there are so many issues and so many problems that must be solved. Of course, it's cool. Like I mean, I'm very excited like to know that a woman will go to the moon. But really, Valentina Tereshkova went to space as the first woman 40 years ago. So it's not something completely new. And the problems that were 40 years ago existing are almost like the same every day, even now. So probably like changing numbers is not changing and solving problems that must be addressed. So
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about those structural issues? I mean, um, I'm sure you're way more aware of them than I am, because you you know, uh, I think b being a white male probably has allowed me to just become completely oblivious and out of touch with a lot of problems that are faced by people that are non-white male. And I was just wondering if maybe you could talk through like what are those structural problems and what would you see as being a step to solving them?
yeah, so for example, if you just imagine, first of all, like I think the main problem in these kind of issues is what is then when we talk about gender issues, we just refer to women, like making the concept of sexuality and gender overlapping, while there are so many different kind of like gender diversity that are not even considered. So, for example, in space, like going back to the human settlements, we know we have many studies on men, we have a very few studies on women, and we have zero studies on transsexual people. So how do you allow like a diverse settlement on the moon if you don't even know how the body of different people will react to space, or the psychology of different people will react to space? But then like going on the very basic level, like just in the work environment, the maternity and paternity leaves, like allowing conditions for women to work at the same condition of men, the difference of the salaries, like there are so many little things that seems like irrelevant that are actually huge and creates a huge disparity, even in the language that we use. Like I was studying I know that the UN has issued a document, guidelines on the use of gendered languages. So how to make sure that the use of language don't create disparities, because there have been studies that demonstrated how much like using a language that is like not gender neutral limit a lot the possibility of women to work. So I don't know, like understanding that, for example, saying mankind and humankind makes a huge difference. It's not the same, like it's definitely not the same, or saying a manned mission, or using these kind of terms, like creates a disparity even in the perception of people that then creates also like a structural disparity in the work environment, in every sector, in the space sector specifically, because like there are not the conditions to allow women to enter the sector, because there is a problem at the start with the education. So
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
like the solution would be like change the education system, like change the way we talk in the schools, the way we make people as children understand that they have the same possibilities. I think everything starts from the education.
but it even goes way back to when you're just a toddler, right? Do you get a cooking play set, or do you get like a truck to take apart and put together? I mean, uh, they start to help to kind of develop one's own mindset about activities that are appropriate based upon on that.
Yes, exactly. Like when I was a kid, I was always like, for example, for Carnival, I was always getting dressed as a pirate or as Zorro. I don't know if you know the. Yeah. And I was doing fencing because I wanted like to be a woman that could protect herself, and to be a woman that could protect herself, like I was getting dressed as a hero man because that was the only way that I could see. And like with the time I understood. And for example, I was refusing the color pink. It's a stupid thing, but when I was young, I hated the pink. Like I didn't want to see the pink because for me the pink was the color of women, and I didn't want to be a princess. I wanted to be a hero. And now like I'm rediscovering the value of pink. Like I like pink. I have pink hair. I have lots of things pink because I understood like how much some structure that society creates when we are young make us like take streets like ways and decisions for our life, then like we have to face for the rest of our life. Like I could have done, for example, I was always passionate about the space, but I didn't do aerospace engineering because I thought, okay, or astrophysics because I thought maybe I'm not ready, I don't know, I'm not good enough. I wasn't very good in math at school, so I was like, okay, I will do law and then I will see what I can do. And now I'm very happy to have done law because I can do space law, but probably my life could have been different, like having a different kind of education in school.
I guess what is the process by which that gets changed? I mean, um,
What, sorry? Like how to change the process?
yeah, how to change, how to fix those problems. What does that look like?
I think like there should be more education to the teachers. So like those teachers are those educating children, so they should be educated first of all, like to present some subject, to present, to use the language in a different way. In that way, if like they are educated enough to report like in a correct, in a proper way, the like certain issues to the kids at school, then they will be able to grow up in a different way, or present like technically like make sure that mathematics or like or what you were saying, like the kids games, like it shouldn't be like the little kitchen for women and the cars, the car race for the for the boys. Like there shouldn't be like pink things and blue things. There should be a neutral color, like if a man likes to wear a pink shirt, should do it, and if a girl wants to, I don't know, have a blue car, should have it. Like there should be like these little things that for kids are fundamental, like the colors, the distinction of like the roles should be avoided and should be presented in a different way. These really little things, because like kids have a basic understanding. So if you change that basic understanding of pink and the blue, then will change also their education and their process of thinking what they can do or what they cannot do.
Now, what I find kind of very ironic is that in the elementary, middle school, and even high school, the vast majority of teachers are female.
Yeah, but like probably like they are female teachers and they are they I'm not even sure if they are all female, but yes, I probably they present how like the topics the way that they were presented to them. So they became teacher because they couldn't like go to aerospace engineering, and so they ended up working in a school because a woman is more as an attitude, a better attitude for kids and for the education and for school and for the house. So they probably like were educated like that, raised like that, and ended up like not being conscious of the bias that they have also in educating. That's why I said we should educate teacher first and make sure that the way they teach their kids is different.
Yeah, I just wonder if ironically the solution to the problem might be getting more male teachers into the elementary and middle schools
I don't know.
because maybe
Yes.
they would be more conscious of that bias at least.
Yeah, or maybe like even men would like to do like would like to teach at school, but they feel like they have another goal to reach as men, so they cannot be like just teacher at school, and they have to be something else. So they also there could be like so many kids that wants to be teacher and they are not allowed to do it because of gender norms. But yes, there should be like a balance everywhere.
And it's so hard to imagine being able to change norms like that in society quickly. Like, they've developed over thousands of years, and it's created this mindset. But whenever you look at the possibility of creating a space settlement, you can literally choose who's going to be in that settlement, and they're very isolated in many ways from the rest of society, and
Yeah.
that provides a chance to really consciously make some changes in these areas. And maybe once you have a thriving space settlement that's is really taken into account, like social justice and equality, and has addressed these things, and they're successful, maybe that gives us the ability to kind of transport that example back to Earth. And I was wondering if you thought there might be some opportunities like this.
Yeah, that's why, like before, I was saying that for me, probably the settlement of space should reflect the best of us. So it should like have those kind of values that we could have here on Earth, but we are not actually implementing. And so try to transport those value there. But the thing is that anyway, you can choose people that are going to the settlement, but the mindset would be the same. Like you can send the best people and with the perfect mindset, but anyway the origin is always the same, so we need to work a lot on basic stuff like the language. For that is the reason why I think the language is very important, and the way we use our word, the value that we give to our word is fundamental, because as these topics, these issues have been existing for thousands of years, and like it's, as you were saying, is like a very slow process to change these kind of things. You need to start doing it by the very basic stuff, like the way we talk and the way we use certain words. Like for me, what would be amazing to change the Outer Space Treaty and modify the word mankind to humankind. Like that would be like an incredible thing to do for the international community, because that would like give a sense of what is the difference between mankind and humankind, and what is the difference between like being male focused and instead humanity focused.
And it's kind of interesting as you look at the different nation states. Is whenever it comes to gender equality, right? I get the sense that like in certain countries, there's a very good equality, but in other countries, it's legally and culturally very not equal in terms of like the ability to drive and to own property and vote and these types of things. And then you have like international bodies like the UN that has to kind of deal with this whole range of spectrum and somehow make progress. How does that work?
I think it's very difficult. That's why I think like for example, space technologies can help a lot, because even in the education, providing internet service or providing the same kind of information and education to people all over the world, that is like kind of help for countries in different level of development to achieve the goals. It's important to understand like how the goals are not the same for everyone, for every country, and how to achieve the different goals. And space in this is very helpful. Like there are now lots of activities related to the sustainable development goals that are trying to help the development of less developed countries through the use of space technologies. And that like and I think also there everything comes from education. So if you are able to provide a good education system, the good kind of information, then also in a less developed country you can start changing the mindset. But also there it comes from education. So you need to make sure, because it's difficult to change the mind of a person of 40 years old or 50 years old. You need to start changing that in the mind of a kid that grew up thinking, okay, I'm a woman and I need to be a teacher. I'm a man and I need to do something else. Like you need to educate from the start, independently from the level of development of the countries. Like it's important understanding how to reach the good level of education in different countries, but that is the first thing to do. Like understand how to educate, how to help the development of the young generations.
And yes, it's a big problem. One fundamental difference between men and women, though, is the ability to bear offspring. And, this requires the need to um, actually have like maternity leave and things like this. Now, in a lot of science fiction books, and you could kind of imagine the technology developing in such a way where people are no longer needed to have offspring, that this is actually a process that's done independent of, humans. Um,
Yeah.
I was wondering if you thought that would uh, be a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't know. I don't think you have to change the human process of raising a child just because it's not possible to give women the right maternity leave or to give men the right paternity leave. Like we should be able to live in a society where if a woman wants to keep working and a man wants to be at home, has the right to have 9 months of paternity and not like 2 weeks. And if you think this in same couple sex, for example, just imagine an homosexual couple, two men that wants to raise a kid, how they should do. Like how can they do it if they only have 2 weeks of paternity leave? Like it's crazy. So we should like the process should not try to avoid the problem, but we need to solve it. Like there cannot be so technological solution. There should be like a sociological solution that helps and get over these kind of issues.
It's kind of amazing, at one point in time, it required like people working so many hours and so much time to just survive, right? Produce the amount of food and, keep, be able to cook the food and provide the shelter and the basic needs. But one thing that I think this COVID-19 thing's shown us is you can literally have like the majority of the population stay at home and the lights are still on, the food is still there, and there's not so much need for everybody
Yeah.
to work all the time.
Yeah, that is the devil of capitalism that made us become like this. But yes, there could be a better like of course for me I could never survive without working. I like doing something that I like, and but there's still a limit. We live in a world where there is the necessity to access for everything and to buy food and clothes and things and always the new kind of mobile phone, the most technological one, and have 20 phones and 2 or 3 laptops. Like we don't need, there are so many things that we don't need, and like understanding how there should be like the end of capitalism would help us live in a better world probably.
Now, when you think of humanity in the far future, say as far away as like 500 years,
Mhm.
um, what is your most optimistic view of humanity, especially in terms of where we are? Are we still just on the Earth making these little bitty trips out into space? Or has it really become like the expanse? I mean, like, where do you think we are?
I don't know. I think it could become like the expanse, but even there, we need to to think about how to make it real. Because if it is like the expanse, is not a better vision of our humanity. Like I can see, we should reach really the lowest point in our history to understand how we should like change completely. Well, today, I think, for example, was the day where we finished the resources of Earth. You know that every year there is the day when there is calculated the amount of resources that the humans should use year by year, and today we finished the resources that we were supposed to use by the end, like until the end of 2020. So until we don't understand what we are doing to ourselves, we can only go bad. And so I think like in 500 years, there should be a real, I don't know, a real change in our mindset to make sure that like we are really surviving and we are creating positive settlements in space. I don't know. For now, I'm not that positive. Seeing how the world is going now, I'm not that positive. I don't know how will be the world post-COVID if that changed something in our mindset, but I'm not sure. I don't have a positive view for the future. I don't have a positive view for humans on Earth and humans in space. But I'm trying to build it like by studying what I can do and by thinking about even, for example, the governance of the moon in a social justice perspective. So I'm trying to change in my little what I can, because I see like my vision of the future is not that optimistic.
Now, in terms of governance of the moon, how much inspiration and education and learnings do you take from like governance of the sea and like things like Antarctica and things like that?
Yeah, are very similar, very similar. Like I was studying also the law of the sea and Antarctica because the there are some zones that are similar in a sense of governance because they are should be like without the sovereignty, with a limited number of these resources that shouldn't be exploited. So there are like we have examples here on Earth of how that could work, and I'm not sure, but I mean with the sea, yes, we have like limitation, but I don't know if we acted that well that we can take the example. We should really like we should take the example from same same things on same yeah same settlements on Earth, but like try to find the problems that we had on Earth and try to solve them on the moon, because like reproducing what we did on Earth couldn't work on the moon from from what we did in the past. Like we need to understand our mistakes in the past and try to avoid them on the moon, even for resources management.
Yeah. What are some of the key mistakes that come to mind in terms of trying to avoid?
I don't know, like for example, now talking about resources, the use of resources, like we finished all we are finishing all the resources that we have on Earth. We are destroying the environment. So we like going back to the first topic we were discussing, how to treat the moon. We need to be careful and like develop new technologies and go to the moon, but be sure that we are doing it in a more careful way and in a more cooperative way, and be sure that like we are doing for the aim of like developing our knowledge and understanding better from a scientific perspective what there is beyond Earth, but not for the aim of capitalizing space. So yeah,
Yeah,
to go back on capitalism, that is the main mistake that we shouldn't do in space, that we
yeah,
did on Earth.
it's interesting though, because kind of like the having groups of people come together and pool their resources to try to compete and produce a better product, and um, has allowed for us to get more food out of the same area, to have cars uh, for more and more people and things like that. But then there's like bad parts of it where um, you have like these power blocks that seem completely independent and able to manipulate the public space and stuff. It
Yeah.
seems like it's a mixed thing. Like there's some good and some bad. And
I think there is like a certain point where you reach like the positive aspect, and then you should stop and benefit from that positive that you gained instead of like trying to get more and then destroy what you have around you. So we should like try to arrive at the point when we understood what we are doing on the moon, where we are using those resources for a positive goal, and then stop there and say, okay, what's next? But not in the sense of exploitation, but in the sense of exploration and scientific research.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it comes to values, and unfortunately, being successful in the capitalist market gives you more value, more power, and then it's very easy to keep that from
Be
being
able to, yeah.
regulated. Well, if it was safe and affordable, would you have any interest in going into space yourself?
No,
No.
like I would, no, I would like maybe to go to the moon. Like, I mean, I dream about going to the moon. Every night I see the moon, I can see my feet walking there. But when I think about really, I studied like medicine very well this year, and like it creates so many like difficult compensation to your human body, like the blood pressure and I don't know, it creates some health problem that you must really want to go to space to go there because everyone thinks, okay, going to space, it's amazing, it's beautiful, and for sure it is from a fantasy perspective. But then if you also think about all the efforts that it takes for your body to be ready to do that, because astronauts do trainings that are incredible, like you don't wake up one morning and go to space. So they have to train, they have to be ready, they have like to follow a diet, and even then they go to space and they have many physical problems that like I don't know, the sight decrease, so I don't say that they become blind, but they are like they get closer, they cannot go stay exposed for too many hours, because for too many days, no more than, I don't know, the longest one until now was almost 1 year, I think, because then there are the radiation, it increased the problems for blood pressures. I don't know. There are so many physical problems that made me think maybe, maybe I can just look from here and see what happens. If they solve all the medical problems and find solution for everything, I would like to go to the moon. For sure, not after, like not longer than the moon. I would never go to Mars.
How about a suborbital flight? 15 minutes on like a New Shepard flight, or maybe an hour on the Virgin Galactic flight.
Yeah, suborbital flights could be nice. I don't like suborbital flights for now because they're very commercial and very for like aimed at rich people that wants to do suborbital flights. So if they would be more equitable, maybe I would do it. But yes, like if I have to go to space, I want to go to the moon.
And to be
So
honest,
like moon would be the first place. Suborbital flight second, but to the moon just if all the medical problems are solved.
well, do those medical problems occur with just like a week or two of um,
No, like there are like even during the travel, they have the pressure to send them to space. Like the thing is that we don't know very well because like we had few cases, so we didn't have so many astronauts going to space compared to the world population. And it's very difficult also to study those to study all different aspects of the human body because there are many restrictions for the use of genetic data, so we still don't understand everything very well. We still don't understand how, for example, drugs works in space, and which are the genetic differences that makes drugs work in different ways. But yes, astronauts have problem like from the start for me until the end. And when they come back, I mean, they have lots of lost bones, so they have to train constantly on the in space, like on the ISS. They have to train I don't know many hours per day. I think 4 or 5, because otherwise they would have so many problems like going back to Earth. So I don't know, like it's a choice that you have to ponder very well before taking it. Would you go to space?
I think I would, but I'm not entirely sure. The more people I talk to that say no makes me think maybe I need to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's a dream, but then if you think about it really, Like now we can, maybe when we were kids we could just dream about it. Now that it's something that is becoming more close to reality, because actually there could be like really tourists that will go to space. Like when now that it's becoming a reality, uh, we can look at it like from a reality perspective, and it's maybe it's not the best thing to do in the world, but it
And
would be like an amazing experience.
also, whenever you're young, you feel like you're indestructible and nothing
Yeah.
bad will happen to you. As you get older, you're like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if I walk too much, I'm already tired. Like I'm 28 years old and I already have back problems. So I don't know.
Oh no.
Like I'm kind of blind and myope. So I don't know, like if I could really go to space.
I was planning to do these interviews every day to the end of 2024, and I kind of see it as a time capsule for uh, people who are interested in what people were thinking right before we started this new kind of expansion out into space. I'm really hoping that the 2020s are what the 2020s are what to space, what the 1990s were to the internet.
Mhm.
And so I imagine like a couple hundred years from now, or maybe 50 years from now, whatever, a high school student doing some type of research project to find out what were people thinking before we kind of went out into space. So in the context of that, what would you uh, kind of say to that high school student of the future?
Well, I really hope like that all the problems that we discussed today are not existing anymore in the future. Like I hope for them that all the things that we are talking about are like problems that have been forgotten long time before they are seeing this video. I really hope it.
Now, is there anything today that you really hope we keep until then?
We keep. Yes, I mean, I think that the human relations should stay the same. Like in many movies, like discussing the future, you see many science fiction. You see like how the world has been completely changed by technology, and relations have been changed by technology. So I think like the human relationships as we have them now should stay for the future. I hope for them this.
That's an interesting thought. Yes, I think about Elon Musk's other venture, Neuralink, where he's creating the brain
Yeah.
computer interface, and you just wonder what the.
I hope for the future that we will stay humans, and despite technology, we will remain humans, but a better version of us.
That's a good hope. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
No, I think we touched almost every aspect of future of space and all the things that I love. So it was great, and thank you so much for doing this. I really wish like I will be able to see in 20 years again this video and see all the things that people have said, and I don't know, and make a reflection on what has changed and what has not. It's an incredible thing that you are doing, like interviewing all these different people and seeing all their perspective. So I
I
love it.
I was thinking, Astrobotic is one of the two companies that's landing a probe on the moon next year, and they are doing this promotion with DHL, the package delivery firm, where for about $450 you can send, a coin-sized object to the moon. And I was thinking, is there some way I could like digitize this in a way that would be preserved for wouldn't get damaged by the temperature and radiation and stuff, which would be really neat.
Some microchip for sure. You can like find someone that will like create some mini microchip of the size of a coin to collect all these videos and send them to the moon. Would be amazing.
And then somebody discovering them
Yeah.
100 years from now, going, that's interesting.
Yeah, that would be great.
But
I
thank
really
you.
think it could be the best solution for your project, like having someone that in 100 years will find your videos online on the moon.
Exactly. Yeah. And being able to decode them, you wonder what did it take, what the technology would be like, their concept of a byte and, a way of encoding video and audio might be completely different. So,
Yes. Who knows? Who knows? I really hope like they will be able to see it.
yeah, me too. Might have to have some directions for them. Well, thank you so much for your time, and it was so good to meet you, and I really appreciate the discussion.
Thank you, Nadanya. It was incredible, and I really enjoyed it a lot. And we stay like way more of the time planned, so we had fun.
Excellent. Okay, well, you have a good rest of your day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.